Ambassador Kumaran, thank you so much for granting CNN Philippines this interview. I want to begin with this. You've recently met with President Bongbong Marcos. Could you tell us or give us the outcome of that particular meeting?
You know, Tristan, the India-Philippines relationship is poised at a very promising stage. And one of the things that, we've been very fortunate to have is the guidance and support from President Marcos. And I was lucky enough to be one of the few envoys to meet him soon after his election. And he gave us some insight into how he would like to see this relationship develop. So over the past year or so, I've been sort of working on some of those leads, if you will. So this was an opportunity to go back to him, pay a courtesy call and brief him on some of the progress that we've made and request his continued guidance and support. So I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity.
What are the priorities of the Marcos administration that India is very much inclined to support?
Agriculture and food security, there was an emphasis on healthcare, which is always an important which is an important area of India-Philippines cooperation. And of course, given the current regional situation, we also dwelt on defense and security issues, and also in terms of preparing for the 75th year of India-Philippines diplomatic relations.
How would you describe the current status of India-Philippine relations?
I think it's a relationship that has become very dynamic. It's a relationship that is based on strong complementarities. We're both democracies in the Indo-Pacific. We want to ensure that given our developmental deficit, both countries, that we work towards a peaceful and stable region, which is a prerequisite for continued development. This is the engine of global growth, and therefore, as fast-growing economies, India and the Philippines have a lot of opportunities to work with each other. And these synergies are not being fully explored. So this is a stage where I think more conversation, more focused interaction will help us build a partnership for the future.
Tell us about India's offer to provide or supply 7 helicopters for the Philippine Coast Guard. Are these choppers made in India, and will India be able to provide trainings for our pilots?
So maritime security is an important facet of our emerging partnership. The Coast Guard Commandant, the former Coast Guard Commandant now, Admiral Abu, was in India, which was the first ever visit by a Coast Guard Commandant. We signed a new MOU on enhanced maritime cooperation. We're working on information sharing. And across the Navy to Navy domain also, there's a lot of cooperation. One of the things that the Philippine Coast Guard has been looking at is to augment its capacities and modernize itself. And in that context, obviously given the capabilities that exist in India in terms of equipment, we are having a conversation. The conversation is still in progress, so it will be difficult to give you any specifics. But what we have offered is to provide a concessional financing, and of course it's a very attractive offer from a government-to-government perspective, because not only in terms of operational training, in terms of having extensive interactions between our Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard and our Coast Guard, we'll also be having a very deep setup here in terms of maintenance, because that is an area where the Philippines Coast Guard is very keen that it should not be found wanting given the operational requirements that they have. So we would have a lot of training for the engineers who will be coming out of colleges, and they'll be trained specifically for this sort of work. There'll be also in terms of spares and the whole support system for several years.
Will this be through aid, loan, or procurement at reasonable prices?
So this is a concessional loan, a soft loan with very favorable terms and an extended repayment period. Given the the current scenario in budgets across the world, it's not a great time to be spending. So the idea is that the Philippines government has that flexibility. It's a loan through the India Exim Bank, and the Indian government will be supporting it.
Okay, it was reported that the first delivery of the supersonic missiles is expected next month. Are we still on track?
We are broadly on track. I'm not sure there's going to be exactly next month, but we are broadly on track.
How can these supersonic missiles actually help the country's military and defense capabilities?
I think the best explanation was put out by Secretary Lorenzana when the contract was signed as to how this is going to defend the Philippines' interests in the West Philippine Sea, and I think that is and other areas of interest to the Philippines. So we see this as a capability that is for the Philippines to decide in terms of how it is to be deployed, but it is a defensive capability which is essential in the current regional scenario.
India is now getting more vocal when it comes to calling out aggressive actions in the South China Sea, or for us, in the West Philippine Sea. What prompted this move?
Well, you see, the South China Sea is one of the key arterial waterways in the world. And obviously, as I was mentioning to you, this is the sort of driving area for global growth, and we have a very strong interest as India. This has been an area we've been traditionally very active, and our engagement in this region has been growing quite exponentially. So obviously we have a very strong interest in seeing that this region continues its peaceful development, which is in our mutual interest. And therefore, any developments that happen here that are affecting that would be something that we would like to see. And as I've said, countries have a responsibility to behave in a manner that contributes to stability, and larger countries have a larger responsibility.
Now I want to go, sir, to the economic front, because what are the focus when it comes to economic cooperation between Philippines and India?
The economic cooperation focusing on 4 or 5 key areas I would identify. One is to expand trade. Our trade has increased over the past year or so quite a bit. We've crossed the $3 billion threshold, but there is considerable scope to grow it. And there's now a discussion around a preferential trade agreement between India and the Philippines. The terms of reference has been shared, and shortly we should be having another virtual meeting between our trade negotiators to finalize the terms of reference. So that's one conversation on trade. Secondly, fintech is an area where we just signed an MOU. I hope that the joint working group can meet soon so that we can share some of the best practices in India around the unified payments, around digital settlements, around the direct benefit transfers using national IDs. These are all path-breaking governance initiatives in India, which would work very well in a Philippines context. The third area is agriculture, where obviously we've just had the announcement from India that we'll be authorizing the supply of rice to the Philippines, which is a very positive development in our bilateral partnership, because it will contribute to stabilizing prices and food security in the Philippines. Health is another area. We are very solid contribution to health security in the Philippines by providing affordable medicines. But a lot of new areas there, including medical devices. There's also conversations around healthcare and hospitals. So this will be another major driving area for our cooperation. So this is really a conversation around multiple domains in the economic space. And I'm also hopeful that there will be progressively, as you know, one of the Indian companies was active in the Cebu airport. And there are conversations around other airports in the Philippines where Indian companies could be participating. That the company that does the Cebu airport also built the Clark terminal building. So really there is potential there. And building on that, as Secretary Bautista just announced yesterday, we're also having a conversation around possible cooperation through an Indian soft loan for a major infrastructure project in the Philippines, potentially a railway project.
So India is ready to at least support one
Yes,
big-ticket railway
yes.
project.
Yes, absolutely.
Could we get an idea which which railway is that?
Well, this is up to the DOTR to indicate where they would like Indian funding, but we are open to any project that the DOTR will decide.
Where do you want to take this relationship in the years to come? Where do you see this relationship?
I think the India-Philippines relationship is poised at a very promising stage. In my personal view, this could be one of the most defining partnerships of the 21st century for both our countries. As I said, strong complementarity of interests and strong shared values, excellent people-to-people relations, shared geography, and I think most of all an intent to try at the highest political level to build this partnership. So if you look at the trends in terms of defense and security cooperation, economic engagement, developmental partnership, which incidentally I didn't mention, but we've just signed earlier this year an MOU to do small development projects in the Philippines using Indian grants. So all of these, I think, create the framework for a much more consequential and valuable partnership for both India and the Philippines in the next 75 years.
Ambassador Kumaran, thank you so much for granting CNN Philippines this interview.
And thank you for taking this message to the people, because as democracies, our partnership ultimately thrives when our people support it.